Hi, I'm Joe and welcome to the channel. In this micro lesson, I wanted to share an exercise I've been working on in hopes that you can incorporate it in your own practice to help train your ear to find and target the strong chord tones. And what I mean by that is I find myself sometimes when I'm playing a solo or something, I'm just going up and down a scale or a pattern or a shape that I'm aware of, and I'm not even paying attention to the chords that are happening underneath me and understanding which notes to target. So basically, I'm not playing with any intention. So this little simple exercise that I've been working on really helps me zone in and train to hit the root, the third, and the fifth of a chord tone that I'm on. And also I wanted to share an interesting discovery that I found by doing this exercise. Let me grab a guitar and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So when we think about targeting chord tones, obviously we first need a chord to play over and then identify what notes make up that chord. So for this exercise, I was just simply doing a chord, good old A major chord. And why I chose this is because this exercise, you don't really kind of need a band. You can basically just have your open A droning. But let's identify the notes that make up an A chord. It's A, which is the root, C sharp, which is the third, and then E, which is the fifth. Now, what I'm finding when I'm doing this exercise is that it seems to me that the root, which kind of makes sense, is always the strongest note to land on. But what was surprising was the next one. I thought that it would be the third, but it turns out it's the fifth. So let me show you what I mean. So this is the little exercise I was doing. Just having an open drone happening and finding another A anywhere on the neck. And obviously we can hear that resolves itself, right? That's no-brainer. It's the same note. So that's always going to feel so strong because it's the root of the chord that you're on. The next one, let's try the third. That still sounds resolved because it makes up that chord. But now listen to this. There's the fifth. In line, the second strongest would be the fifth. And I guess that's no surprise, right? When we look at an A power chord, it's really made up of the root and the fifth. And then here comes that third. Still sounds resolved, but not as strong as the root, and not as strong as the fifth. So here's now part of the exercise that I was doing to kind of prove this to myself. I would play the open A, and then I would start a phrase or a lick on every other note but those chord tones, and then resolve it so I can listen and make this a listening exercise for my ears to train myself how to resolve my lead lines or my melodies or whatever I'm creating to those strongest tones. Because lots of times I'm just going up and down a scale, like I mentioned, and I'm not kind of paying attention and resolving my line. So this way, you're playing with intention. You're purposely targeting either the root, the fifth, or the third of the chord. So let's start on the note D. See, that's uneasy to me. But I can resolve nicely to the third. But listen to this. I'm going to go from the D to the fifth, and that sounds a little bit more resolved than to the third. And of course, if we go to the root, there's the second, but going down to the root. See how that just feels like you're coming home? And how strong the root is? And there's the fifth. Now, you can do this with the open A and playing an A chord. You can do this over an E. But I also put like a little bit of a track together in my looper, and I started to play with ideas. So let me show you that again. So having a melody and taking this concept and trying to put it in a musical application is always going to help you learn better. You know, sitting around here, it's helpful, right? It's training our ears, but it's not not necessarily musical to a certain extent. I guess it is. I'm still making music and I'm noodling, but I am trying to make this a listening exercise instead of more of a make it musical. So let me just put the little track on here. And all it is just an A chord, so I'm not doing anything fancy here. And then I just started again doing that same exercise but trying to make it more musical. There I was resolving to the third, resolve to the fifth. See, the root just sounds so solid to me. There's the fifth. There's the root. The fifth again. Fifth. Third. Fifth again. The root. So I won't bore you with. I won't bore you. Thank you. I won't bore you with keep playing and noodling there and fiddling around, but it's nice because now I'm playing with intention and I'm starting to build kind of melody lines. You heard I started to create something there, and I was, again, doing a test though. Every time I would play this, there's the root. There's the fifth. I keep changing the last note, the resolution note, to the third, to the root. And again, all I'm trying to do is play with the idea of resolving to those chord tones, but keeping the other notes kind of the same and seeing which ones are stronger to me. And again, this is an opinion-based thing. I shouldn't say again, I didn't say this before, but this is an opinion-based thing. This is just what I'm hearing. So to me, the order of strength that I'm hearing is that the root is first in the chord as being the strongest note that you can target and land on. You feel like you're at home. Then the second one, again, was the surprise. It's the fifth, where I thought it might have been the third, but the third to me seems to be the third strongest note. And again, this is all subjective, and it doesn't mean that you always have to land on these chord tones. I mean, in music, we're trying to create tension and release, and the way to do that is not to be on those chord tones. You heard that was tension till I resolved down to the third, or I started the whole lick on that. There's tension again because it's the second to the root. So I was using the different notes in the scale to create tension and then release, which means I'm targeting and landing on those stronger chord tones. And here's the neat thing, right? Now that happened to be just over an A chord. When you're doing this exercise, if you put a track together or you put something in your DAW and you just look at the chord changes, remember the note values are going to change. What do I mean by that? Well, if I was playing A to a D, now the D, F sharp, and A of the D chord are what I'm targeting. I'm no longer targeting necessarily the C sharp as an example because that's not part of that chord. So you have to make adjustments based on the chord that's underneath you, but always finding the root, the fifth, and the third of those chords in any chord change will really help you sound like you're very solid and coming home and landing on the proper notes inside of your solo, if that's the effect you want. Because again, sometimes you want to create tension and release. Now here's another kicker too. I'm just doing basic chords. A for that, right? Well, if I did an A major 7, well, guess what? Now, part of this chord happens to have a G sharp in it. So I can resolve to that if I want to. So anytime that you add an extension or a different version of a chord, those notes now become available to you as target tones as well. Well, that's it. That's my simple little exercise I've been working on to try to train my ear a little bit better to hit target tones inside of a chord. Feel free to incorporate this into your own practice schedule, or if you come up with a variation, or if you're doing something that's different and interesting that helps you with this, please share it down below in the comments. I'm always interested in learning what other people are doing. And while you're down there, if you don't mind and you found some value in this video, would you do me a favor and help me support the channel by subscribing down below or hitting the like button? Again, all these things help me out, and I'm always so grateful for your help and your support. As always, I wish you a fantastic day.